Hi guys, my name is Roger, and I'm building a mid-engine supercar in the basement of my home. Let's take a look at what I've been working on this week. Alright guys, well welcome back to the channel, and I guess you saw in last week's video, maybe you did, maybe you didn't, but last week we made this rear hatch carbon fiber panel here for the car, which means we have two panels made, the roof and the rear hatch. And the next part we're going to concentrate on this area here where the driver's side glass is. That includes the A pillar, the B pillar. There's a little quarter window here that's actually fake. It's not a real window, but it looks like it's real. And then the part will come on back just behind this little quarter window. And we're going to start making the mold. I have the SolidWorks files finished. It took me probably 6 or 8 hours to get everything ready. You take the body panel part and do a reverse image of it to make the mold. And this is going to take 2 sheets of MDF, which I have brought down here to the basement. I'm getting ready to cut. I have my cut list here ready. And I guess I'm going to go ahead and cut all of these pieces out and glue this up. So we'll have a block ready to start machining. And let me go get busy cutting on this. And once I get this all glued together, I'll show you what it looks like. Okay, I am back, and I have this big wooden assembly glued up here, this big block of wood. This will be to cut the next mold out of. And this is two full sheets of MDF. Well, 2 sheets minus these 2 small pieces here. The large piece was already here, but these 2 small pieces are the drops out of those 2 sheets. So basically it is almost entirely 2 sheets. So it's kind of heavy, but we'll manage to get it up to the CNC machine, get it clamped down, and we'll be ready to start cutting this. I need to go ahead and write the G-code file for it, and then we'll be ready to start cutting that. But let me throw this on my little trailer and pull that up with a lawnmower to the garage and get this loaded and clamped down in place on the CNC, and we'll be ready to start cutting this. Okay guys, well we're out here in the garage and I have the block loaded on the CNC. I had an issue with it. I didn't even pay attention, and I didn't realize the block was longer than the travel length on the y-axis of my machine. So I had to take and cut a section of it off. I'll have to cut this in 2 pieces and glue it back together. I didn't even realize that this block was longer than the one that we cut in 2 weeks ago's video. But it is longer, so I had to pick a good spot to cut it in 2, and that's what I did. Pick the best spot to be able to glue it back together successfully and align it easily. So I've done that. The block is sitting here, it's clamped on the table. The table is ready to go, and I have the G-code file loaded in the computer. Okay, I have the door glass laying up here. When I was checking the length, just to verify it had cut in the wrong place, and it had. It should have been back here. But I also noticed that the shape of the glass, if you can see, this is completely different than the shape of the mold. There's a real soft corner here where there should be a more pronounced hump in the glass, and then the arc on out there towards the other end, if you can see that, is way off also. So one of two things happened. Either the guy that scanned the glass, and this wasn't the company that I hired to do the windshield and back glass, they did an excellent job. This glass was scanned by a local guy at a company, and this is the only piece that he scanned for me. Either he did a bad job scanning this glass, or either the person that did the body work for me messed up or simplified the shape here around the glass to make it easy. I'm not quite sure, but I'm getting ready to go open the computer files and see exactly where the problem lies. Was it the glass or is it the body of the car? And if it's the glass, I'll have to take this and have it rescanned. I have some other components, the little metal tracks, the window tracks that go around the perimeter of this glass, I need to have scanned anyway, so I may take all of these components together to the company in South Carolina that I used before and have them scan all of these components at one time. They did such a great job on the other pieces of glass that I trust them to do all of this. But let me go find out on the computer exactly what's going on. But until this issue is solved, I am not going to be able to move forward making this mold. So we're going to put this on hold, and I'll have to find another part to start working on while these parts are being 3D scanned. But let me go see exactly where the problem came from and figure out what direction I'm going to do moving forward. We are going to have to pick another body part to make and start working on it. I'd love to do the hood, but it is so large I'm wanting to hold off on it, so I'm going to have to pick something else for right now. But let me go figure this out, and I'll get back with you when I know the answers. Okay, this is the driver's side door glass area that we were trying to make the mold on. You can see here how this window has a real pronounced curve to it, and that is not the way it's supposed to be shaped. This is the original scan for the glass that a friend did, and you can see how it has a sharp corner right here. It's very pronounced, and we should have that. Now, I didn't use the file because of all this jaggedness up here. It wasn't a clean file, and Fatah had trouble using it when he was doing the body of the car. And I found this other file here that he had sent me, and this is where he pulled the glass from, and it must have been some car that someone modeled or scanned a model car of or something. Although this glass has a pronounced hump on it, this is the surface that he pulled out of the file and used, and you can see that that pronounced hump is gone and it has more of a curve there. So that is where the issue came from. The hump went away and we have this real slight curve, and that is an issue. So I'll have to make changes to that file before we can proceed with it. But now I know what the issue is. Okay, now back to the car model. You can see our side glass here. This is the mold. I had it in place on the car. We're going to go ahead and start making this rear valance here. It's going to be in two parts. There'll be a top half and a bottom half because of the size of it and the shape of it. But let's open this and take a look. All right, here's the part. You can see it has edges on it to glue to other body components. And here is what the molds look like. When we split this in two, this is the bottom half of the mold. We will cut this first. And then this is the top half of the mold. And you can see here the top half, once this is cut, we will glue the two halves back together and make one solid mold, and then back to our part. And here you can see in the assembly, this is what that rear valance will look like with the other components attached to it. There's a rear diffuser at the bottom, some aluminum mesh grill for the air to flow through between the two pieces. These two pieces will have to be made separately and attached because it's such a large piece they'll be glued together, and then we'll bondo the seams and patch them where you won't see them. But that's what the entire rear valance looks like as an assembly. So you can see that you have to make the top piece, the rear diffuser, and then the left and right corners, and all of that will be assembled together. Also, I had mentioned about getting a friend to cut some pieces for us, some trim pieces that would be fun to experiment with on this piece. What that is the where the mesh is, where the air can flow through. And let me unsuppress that so you can see what it is. But we will cut this out of aluminum. My friend has a 48 fiber laser, so he can cut this out of probably 080 to 125 aluminum, somewhere in that range. And this is what the part itself will look like when it's cut out. And then we'll attach letters to this. Let me get these unsuppressed here so you can see the letters attached on the panel. I'm not sure what we'll make these letters out of. They could be aluminum or they could be something else and attached. But once this assembly is bonded up or glued or however it's done, then we will either powder coat this, or since it's aluminum, we'll probably anodize it black. And then that'll install on the carbon fiber rear valance. But that's what this assembly will look like when it's all put together. Okay, I have the wood cut and glued up here for the first half of this mold. It's so large we'll have to do it in 2 pieces. And we'll let this half dry for a couple of hours to make sure it's thoroughly dry. And while it's drying, I'm going to go ahead and write the program, the G-code for this, to cut it. So once it's dry, I can take it up and put it on the CNC machine and go ahead and start cutting this half of the mold. And I also have enough wood left to make the other half of the mold. So while this is running on the CNC machine, we'll come down here and start cutting and gluing the rest of this wood up to make the other half of the mold. So once this actually this is the bottom half, we're going to cut the bottom half first. Once this bottom half is finished cutting, we can go ahead and load up this other wooden block and start cutting the top half of the next mold part. And we'll join both of these together once they're both cut and then start finishing them. But I'm excited to start on this part. This will be fun to look at once it's installed on the car. And once we get to that point, I'll show you why. There's some trim elements that we can start working on and perfecting how we're going to do it, finalize it. And I have a friend who has a fiber laser. I think it's a 4-foot by 4-foot fiber laser. So we'll get him to cut us some aluminum trim pieces and test fit those and see what they look like. But first things first, let's get this mold dry on the CNC and start cutting it. Okay, so I started cutting this new pattern, and I have some issues with my CNC machine. Let me show you what's going on. As the pattern was started cutting, you can kind of see the shape of it here. This is the lower part. This is actually right here would be where the license plate mounts, and this part jogs down, attaches to the rear diffuser. But while it was cutting, I noticed, it's just a roughing pass, I noticed that this side was looking different than this side. And I kept a close eye on it because I wasn't sure what was going on. It usually cuts mirror images pretty close. But I thought the CNC program may be smarter than me, and it may come back over and clean one side up to match the other side. But then I started noticing the end of the piece here that it's cutting versus the end over here on this end were different dimensions from the opening. So I really started keeping a close eye on it, thinking that something was wrong. And then eventually the machine come down and plunged right into the part when it should have been up here somewhere. So it was losing steps in the y-axis and was trying to figure out why, what had changed, had I done anything differently. I went through several processes, checking the CNC program, checking where I wrote it on Fusion if anything looked off, and it didn't. I checked it here on Mach 3. I didn't see any issues. I was moving the machine around. I couldn't find anything. Electrically, I called the company that made the breakout board and talked to them today, see if they had any ideas, and they asked me about motor feeds and speeds. And I thought that was a good idea. That's something that I haven't tried. I went in the computer and I changed those and set those to something that's more comfortable. But I was still thinking, why is it only doing it in the one axis and not the others when everything is programmed the same? And then I happened to think, well, maybe I need to check my linear bearings and see if I have a bad bearing that's dragging and that is causing it to lose steps. And I found a couple of bearings actually on this one side. I haven't even checked the other side, that are really hard to move, quite a bit harder than the other. And I think I have at least one and maybe two bearings going bad. I'm not quite sure what happened. Maybe I'm not degreasing them often enough, or maybe this MDF dust is just horrible on the bearings, or something. Maybe even where it goes over the transition where the rails are butted together somewhere. Oh, right here. There's a transition. Maybe I've knocked a bearing out and it's the inside of the linear bearing is messed up somehow. Either way, I went ahead and ordered a full set. There's 4 per side, so 8 total bearings. I'm going to replace all of these. As hard as this is to move, and it takes quite a bit of force, I could see how that would overpower the stepper motors and cause issues. I believe that is my problem. So I noticed that on the last pattern I cut, it was doing some funny things on the y-axis and only that axis. And then here on this new pattern, it was definitely showing up on the y-axis. So I think the situation was just getting worse. But that seems to be the problem. And we should have new bearings here in 2 days, and I'll get these put in and we should be good to go again. Not sure why I'm having all of these issues, but oh well, it's just what it is. Live and learn. Anyway, guess we haven't made a whole lot of progress this week, other than finding out that the machine has an issue. I guess that's not really true. We do have this file programmed and ready to cut, and I have an appointment next Tuesday to take the door glass, which is laying over here, and the trim components that go around the perimeter of it. They're metal stamped channels. I'm going to have all of that 3D scanned. When those files come back, we'll be in good shape to start finishing and working on the next mold after this one. We'll do this one first and finish at the rear valence. And then we'll start working on the driver's side door again. May try to salvage that mold, see if I can cut a piece out of the center of it where the door glass actually fits and replace it and CNC it again. If I can't salvage it, we'll just make an entirely new pattern. But once the CNC is up and running again, we should be past these issues and we can get these next couple of molds moving quickly. But I guess that's about it for this video, and I'll see you guys again in a few weeks, and hopefully we'll have some nice progress to show you. See you guys in a few weeks.